Okay, so looking at the sort of bargain sites on the internet this week, man, there's been some crazy stuff happening with PlayStation 5. In the UK, it's now possible to buy the disc version of the PlayStation 5, not the digital version, with an extra controller for like, well, what is it? £420, which is a massive discount compared to usual retail pricing. Yeah, we had some comms through from Sony this morning that there's actually a £75 official discount on the cost of the PlayStation 5. And I think it's a $50 discount in the US. You can get the God of War Ragnarok bundle deal for $500 now. Seems like Sony want to push out a lot of hardware very quickly, and they've got this summer sale going on. Question is why? I mean, is it just basically a big push to get that installed base higher and higher, increase momentum on console sales? Or is it possibly the case that there is a new version of the PlayStation 5 coming and they want to clear inventories? Oliver, thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, it's very curious. You'd certainly think maybe Sony has some excess inventory lying around, maybe for some reason or another, potentially the launch of a new unit. If so, it would be kind of confusing because they did have that Spider-Man bundle and faceplate,
Yes.
and that's obviously a big thing. And I remember when that was announced, that really seemed like a bit of a nail in the coffin for potential PS5 Slim. But then you look at this, and it really does seem like probably Sony doesn't need to accelerate PS5 sales any more than they already have. You know, it was very difficult to find one on the open market until relatively recently, and they've been selling extremely well. Obviously, they just crossed the 40 million threshold, I think, a few days ago. So it's very curious. If it doesn't indicate a PS5 Slim, then what does it indicate? You know, it's a little weird.
It just seems to be a really, I mean, it's a super aggressive move from Sony. And, well, what can I say? If I didn't own a PlayStation 5 and I was in the market for one, I would be very, very tempted to jump in now because, well, John, you're not a fan of the concept of a new PlayStation 5 arriving with a detachable or slash optional Blu-ray drive. So the concept that you could get the full-blooded disc version at the cost of what is essentially the digital version right now is quite compelling, right?
Yeah, that is compelling. Although I have had a slight turnaround on that external disk drive idea or the add-in disk drive. While I still fear what it would do to physical sales, it does have this benefit of being an easy replacement in the case of an optical drive failure. One of my PS4 Pros, for instance, the disk drive failed, but I believe the disk drives on that system are tied to the hardware specifically.
Yes,
So
they
you
are.
cannot simply swap in a new disk drive and solve the problem. Well, if they have a swappable disk drive that's intended to be swapped by the user, that basically solves that entirely, which that is one benefit of that model that would be interesting. But yes, either way, the pricing right now is really unusual, and it's difficult to understand what they're hoping to achieve here, given that it was only recently that the console transitioned from difficult to find to being widely available, right? So to go instantly into discount mode, I mean, surely has there been any movement on like the supply chain side or the components cost side recently that we have any insight into? So I'm wondering, like, have the prices just come back down and now they can sell it? Because obviously in certain regions they raised the price of the PS5, right?
They did.
So is this like a course correction thing? Could be related to a new slim detachable model. It could just be wanting to bump up their numbers further. Like, there's so many different potential reasons here, but it's difficult to say for sure what the heck they're doing.
I think what's surprising to me is how aggressive the pricing
Right.
cuts are, because you could lop off. Well, in the US it kind of makes sense, right? Because you get a $50 discount and you're getting a good bundle deal. Whereas in the UK it seems like the gloves have come off. £420 for a disc unit plus an extra controller is just kind of crazy, and it goes beyond what Sony is officially mandating in its comms. Copy of which I received this morning, which does confirm that this is quite
An official thing.
an official thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this is really, really interesting. And again, I do think it puts pressure on Microsoft as well, because they don't seem to have the latitude to reduce prices on Series X, and there does seem to be a sort of lack of Series X's to begin with, whereas Sony are just basically seemingly able to replenish the market that much more quickly, and now are able to instigate these aggressive price drops. In terms of the supply side situation, you would expect the core silicon to get cheaper.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, over time. Basically, once these cutting edge fabrication technologies mature, then typically they become cheaper for Sony and Microsoft to access. So yes, you would expect to see some price drops over time, but this level of price drop is quite impressive, I guess.
I'm also seeing on Amazon UK a controller, the standalone white DualSense controller has been dropped to $40, £40.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Which,
there.
by the way, that is a far more reasonable price for a controller. I think, like the initial pricing of modern controllers is really absurd. I think
one thing that is perhaps exceptional in the UK's favour is that the strength of the currency has increased recently. So if everything is sort of pegged to dollar value, then it kind of makes sense that they're able to cut deeper on the UK side.
True.
But even so, there's some great deals there. And I'd seriously be considering one at these prices. It's just kind of crazy. But the implications in terms of a new model, as Oliver pointed out, the big thing that counts against it is that we know that in September time, there's going to be a new custom PlayStation arriving that is seemingly based on the current model, which kind of throws a potential spanner in the works there. Unless, of course, there is no PS5 Slim. And to be fair to Tom Henderson, who initially leaked or reported on the leak of the detachable BD drive, he's never said it's a Slim, right? He's just said it's a new model with a detachable drive. Mm-hmm. Again, lots of questions, and I'm going to be fascinated to take a look at that model once it appears.
I'm just looking at prices on controllers on other markets, and they're bad. So the UK,
really,
like Amazon US, it's still $70, but on Germany here, you can get the white one for €66. But a lot of the other colors, like Galactic Purple, they're asking €100. So I'm like,
that's pretty galactic.
Like, what on earth? All the color variants are between like 80 and €100. Oh, Nova Pink, $99.98. What a steal! Very strange.
Wow. I think ultimately the fate of the new model is, and in terms of your fears for the physical market, it's all going to come down to: can you buy a PlayStation 5 with an optical drive in the pack, or do you have to buy it separately? Because the history of peripherals for consoles is not a particularly rich and exciting one. And I think the strategy there is going to define that. But I think that's all we've really got to say about that one. Let's just say that I really want to see this new model, assuming it exists. But right now, at least, certainly some very, very interesting deals on the PlayStation 5.